Hey friends, welcome back. It's been a while, and yeah, it's the Data Bros. Hey guys,
Hey, Brian.
Brian.
we've been away for a while, but I feel like we're all back.
I've been showing up every week.
I finally got my bunion removed.
I just learned what bunions were literally this week. It's been fascinating. Well, I think this is going to be a great Data Bros to get back. It is our second season. Because we were away just so long that it felt like a good break. So we're doing away with all of our things like industry yammer and data broification, and we're just going to freeform this. And I think this one's it might be a tight 52, or maybe even a tight 84. It was long.
It's a tight high five.
I was excited for us to get to have this wonderful conversation moderated by you, talking about the big moves that the Comics Place in Bellingham are making. You know how much I love self-promotion.
It's his favorite thing.
Yeah.
He
Literally
leans into it.
Literally favorite thing. Well, folks, an all new Data Bros starts now.
Coming to you from top secret field offices worldwide, these brave men and women fight a battle for truth, justice, and good clean data. These agents of change make up the Bureau of Records, Objects, and Standards. They are the Data Bros.
Welcome to the Data Bros, your weekly 30-minute appointment with us, the Data Bros, to talk the comic book industry, comic book data, and what goes into running a modern comic store. I'm your host, Brian, and with me, as always, are Jeff and Django. Fellas.
Brian, it feels really good to hear you do that.
I didn't know how much I missed
It's been a while,
it.
right?
I miss it. Here, let
Fellas,
me
It's
just
been a while.
blow the dust off this old microphone.
Just also proving that you're not AI.
Exactly. Make sure people know, because that Jeff bot you've created is pretty good.
Oh my gosh, they're like two of my greatest creations are the Jeff and Django bots. And
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie, I occasionally use them for nefarious purposes that don't involve either one of you.
That's fine.
Oh.
That's probably
Little
fine.
Bedroom
fine.
activities.
It's fine. Sure, Django just called me and he had some things to say to you.
Listen, dear listener, you maybe thought you were never going to hear from us again, and yet
Pshaw.
here we are, back in your ears, ready for another glorious season of the Data Bros.
We told
Guys,
them
did you
we'd be
hear-
back.
We threatened. Did you guys hear about Murphy's apple juice?
Yeah, I've been
I've-
following it
Yeah.
pretty closely. It doesn't hurt that my Reddit news feed is always throwing Murphy's Apple Juice articles up at the top.
It's not looking so good for them. Like, I don't
Such a bummer.
know what's going on. Like, so from what I understand, like, Bob just kind of took off
Mhm.
with all the original bottles and he's just gone.
Well,
And
I
Carrie,
think-
like, there's who knows what's going on with Carrie.
in my mind, it sort of started when Bob began fermenting apple juice with the goal of creating something stronger than vodka, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that there's a lot of room for addiction, abuse, getting high on one's own supply.
So
Goes
weird,
against
though,
the
like-
founder's whole thing.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and like they were so adamantly against hard cider. Like they were,
Yeah.
we're soft, we'll never be hard, right?
Well,
like,
that's what happens when you spin that long soft, like you end up having to go hard. And, that's even kind of ties into the conversation that we're going to have today. Location, new locations,
All
moving a store to a new location.
all new, all different location. We don't want to
Boredom.
This is not a repeat, folks.
No,
This
no,
is
no, no,
not,
no.
This
No, no,
is
no.
a this is a revamp. This is a relaunch. This is
No,
a
you would
reintroduction.
remember Brian doing that whole soft hard thing, and I know you don't.
Hey, you guys should keep an eye on, not the listener, but Jeff and Django, you should keep an eye on your mailbox because there is a little something special coming from our new sponsor. Totally excited about this. You guys will be seeing it. And next time we talk, I'm so excited to talk about these guys, and I think they're going to be
Okay.
they're going to be a great sponsor going forward. There seems to be no family like drama within them, and I've been really excited to talk about these guys. But that will happen next week. That's what in the biz they call a tease.
Yeah.
Nice,
And you know
right?
why?
Corporate.
Because we're going to be here next week.
Heck yeah, we are. We're going to be here
Yeah.
next week. And do we want to discuss at all what happened in our off time? Do we?
I mean, I
wanna-
was
Yeah.
sorting my Muscles action figures the
Yeah,
last few
well,
months.
Do you have them all, or
I'm missing like 3 of them. I don't have all the color variants, but I'm missing.
Right.
I'm just missing a couple. I'm really close.
I got
That makes
so
sense.
high on our conversation about locations last time that I decided to move the comic shop. So that's what I've been working on.
well, and you like didn't you have like a honeymoon and you went?
Oh
off
yeah, I
and,
also
like,
went to
lived in a-
Scotland, and then
It's
Django and I
amazing.
went to San Diego Comic Con, and
Guys, you were
Yeah.
like you were jet setting. You were literally jet setting.
we were setting jets left and
Wow.
right.
Wow.
We had that.
Yeah.
That's back when we had that Murphy's money. What about you, Brian?
Well,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
We were
It was.
sipping the pulp from the top of the cup. I tell you what.
I literally don't know what that means, but it sounds amazing. Let's,
You know,
It's like
let's-
Grooch and the Smooth is what it means.
It's like the sediment that rises to the
Rooch and
top.
the smooth. All right, fellas, let's revisit locations because since last we talked, you guys went ahead and did a thing. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we went ahead and
Absolutely.
did a thing. Brian, your conversations have been a thing that nourished the two of us for years now. But our previous conversation about locations and what you would look for in a new location prompted Django and I to decide to move the comics place.
It was.
You did what in the what?
Well, we haven't done it yet, but we've signed a lease.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We got a lease for a new space. We have been working on it for a little while, and it was quite the process.
Yeah.
So what kind of inspired you to look at a new space? Because your space that you've got is pretty darn good, from what I
It is
understand.
pretty darn good.
It's a pretty good spot. It's located in a pretty key area of Bellingham, which is hard to argue with. It's got a fair amount of retail space to be facing things out and selling things. There is a short list of things that had kind of caused us to want to consider moving. One of which being an increased rate of buying collections of comics. And we need to have a place to store the 85% of the collection that we don't want after we get the 15% out of it that we want. So Django, has kind of been envisioning and playing with the idea of a larger space to be storing and selling back issues. And then also Bellingham has a nice little 24-hour convenience store right next to us. It's the only place in town that you can buy tampons and whiskey and orange juice all
And
at
Whippets,
2 o'clock in
probably.
the morning. And Whippets.
Convenient.
It is. But the other side of that convenience is that it can attract a crowd of folks that was maybe making some of our clientele uncomfortable. And Bellingham doesn't have a lot of great laws in place for doing that. So we had been hearing from people for a while that they were, sometimes a little bit freaked out to be coming in the store. So those were the two kind of big factors in my brain. Django, what else was in your brain?
I would say another thing is that our current location is made to be like a phone bank and not really a retail store. So it's nice. It has always felt kind of bright and clean, but
Mhm.
we had to put a lot of work into making it not feel like we had just ripped out a bunch of cubicles and dropped a retail store.
Oh, I see.
And so
So like
the new
a call
space-
center kind of thing is what it felt like before.
Yeah, basically it was like next to the bank. It was all their offices and stuff.
Sure. Okay.
And the floor plan wasn't super open because of the architecture of the building has all these load bearing columns every
Yeah.
13 feet or so. And it just sort of has hamstrung the layout of our store and given us one way to design our customers' experience in the shop. So also the ceilings have always been really low. Like Jeff and I can reach up and touch our drop ceilings. in
The
current
carpets at this
space.
point are very stained. But
Yeah.
I mean, to Django's point of like, it's laid out in a pretty unique way because of the support columns and kind of the depth of the store. And I think it's easy to become blind to the way that you get stuck into a routine if you have certain aspects of your store that are immutable or unchangeable. So like our whole kind of displaying new issues and how we present that to people is something that was really hard to change. I think we had talked in a previous episode about experimenting with some new ways of doing that, but we just were kind of limited by the fact that there's not a lot of spaces that we could be displaying that many issues. So, you know, it's just sort of growth desires, right? I mean,
And was so in the last 18 months to 2 years, I know you guys have like visited a ton of stores.
yeah.
You guys kind of stole my whole, managed comics road trip, and you've been doing the CSA road trip.
Oh,
Yeah,
we just
Django.
kind
It's
of
fine.
boosted
That's
it.
fine.
We'll
No,
kick
it's
it back
fine.
over
It's
to you
fine.
pretty soon.
You should
It's fine that you
see
stole the
his
exact same thing
journals
that I
because,
did.
like, the first like 4 pages of him talking about that idea, it was all
Yeah,
Brian's
no,
idea. Like the managed
it's fine.
comics road
It's
trip,
fine. Yeah.
it was
Because I was
directly
the first
referencing.
person ever to visit multiple comic stores in
true.
in a row. So
No,
it's totally my idea. No,
Yeah.
but all joking aside, you guys have seen a ton of stores in the last couple of years. And I imagine that you see things and you're like, man, I'm inspired by that and would love to implement that, but through maybe physical reasons or whatever the reasons are, you can't do them in your location. When you were looking for a new thing, was that like kind of top of mind? Like, oh man, this I could steal, this from another store or
Yeah. Well, what do we do, Jeff? We looked at 3 spaces.
Like
We didn't
in
look at a
town,
ton
we
of
looked.
spaces.
Yeah, we were, obviously, like you said, we've traveled to a ton of comic shops,
Yeah.
and gotten a bunch of ideas and tested a lot of things in our store. But yeah, I think we were just sort of like, let's just see what there is to offer. Cutely, this was like in May or earlier, maybe. And Django was like, our lease is up in August. Like,
Yeah.
we could start looking at another place if we're gonna re-sign that lease or what. So I think it was just the availability of a renewal in our lease as
Right.
an opportunity to make a change. So that's what prompted us to go look at some locations over a couple of days.
And we found a tiny one that was kind of connected to our existing space that would have been kind of a cool like annex that we could have used for back issues or manga or gaming or whatever. And then we looked at a space that was kind of the right size but the wrong shape, just a couple blocks away. And then on our way leaving that space, we saw a for lease sign in a window about a half a block from our current location and called that guy and he got us in there. And when we walked out, I was thinking, man, this is an awesome space. The price is right. The space is huge and beautiful. I really like the landlord. I wonder what Jeff thinks. And Jeff was on the same page, which was kind of, the expansion. The expansion is sort of my knee-jerk reaction to everything. And Jeff is much better at keeping that contained and putting the brakes on lunatic ideas that I would probably go full speed ahead without him. It's a really good balance. But this one, Jeff was like, that was awesome. We should get in there.
So we talked to him. We had some really positive conversations. And then a couple days later, Django and I were in the middle of a podcast talking about it. And he went in to check the lease and realized that the lease is up a year from August, not this
Oh.
August.
Because I was just about to say, fellas, it's August. Your
Yeah.
lease is up.
Yeah. So
no, we got plenty
okay.
of time, Brian.
So
So
that
2025.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that then changed things, and we were both like pretty bummed for a day. But Django was like, I don't know. I don't think it's a deal breaker yet. So yeah, we then had some excellent conversations with the potential new landlord. Still haven't spoken to the landlords at our current place. But yeah, he seems to be like a guy that is very mindful of wanting to help the community of Bellingham, and Bellingham has a lot of occupancies in business spaces downtown currently. but not a lot of them are filling because the prices are real high. So
So a lot of like vacancies kind of thing.
yeah,
Right now
like,
there's a handful of vacancies for business.
yeah, for downtown Bellingham, they would be awesome places to fill with businesses, but the people are not budging on what they're asking for them.
Right.
And yeah, so he was just very cool of like, I would rather have somebody in here sooner than later to help the state of downtown rather than
Right.
maybe make a little bit more in a year and have possibly make it harder to fill locations.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so he worked with
well,
us a lot to make sure that we could get in there and still deal with our extra rent.
well, that gives me a little bit of a sidebar here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how much we want to go into this, but like the general consensus around the businesses that I talk to, I still talk to a lot of comic shops, is that this year has been better than last year, but not as good as not quite as good as 2019. How are you guys seeing things? Like, are you, are you seeing an upward trend? Are you seeing a downward trend? Is this?
We're solidly up from last year, and I think up from 2019. Who can really remember?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's literally an entire
And our business
business cycle
model
ago.
pre-pandemic
Yeah.
was a lot different than our business model is post-pandemic.
What's the big difference?
I would just say like the utilization of online sales, shipping, like allowing online sales means we can send things all over the country, which we are doing. So taking orders. So inventory is different in that regard. Staffing is different. The amount of time that Django and I are specifically in there is different.
And we're spending more time focusing on profit rather than revenue.
Right.
We spent a lot of years just growing no matter what the cost. And in the last couple of years, we've started like looking at things and figuring out where we can cut costs and keep the service that we've been providing.
And then like distribution changing between 2019 and now is a huge thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I would imagine that would drive into profit a little bit, because if your entire revenue was made off of new books, your profit would be down because the margins have reduced. Like no matter what you're doing, margins have reduced.
Hey, some important messages coming up. Stick around.
Hey, have you heard about Bet Anything, the only place where your wildest bets come true? Want to bet your cat on tonight's big baseball match? Go for it. Maybe you're feeling lucky about that golf game on the weekend. Bet your dinner plates. Bet Anything means anything. Bet your favorite sneakers on the triathlon. Hey, bet your pizza on the next reality show winner. You get the idea. No bet is too big, too small, or too crazy. If you can think it, you can bet it. So what'll it be today? Something big, something bold, or something just plain fun? Bet it all at Bet Anything. And remember, sometimes the crazier the bet, the sweeter the win. The Bet Anything platform is intended for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware of the following. Must be at least 18 years of age to gamble. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling can be addictive, and we urge all gamers to be responsible. Betting involves the risk of loss. There are no guarantees of winning. Bet Anything is not liable for any losses, damages, or other consequences resulting from your use for our services. Users assume full responsibility for their betting decisions. By using the Bet Anything platform, you acknowledge and agree to these terms and conditions. If you do not agree with any part of this disclaimer, please refrain from using our services. Visits from Cousin Vito or Uncle Vinny may be a consequence of using the Bet Anything platform. Bet Anything is illegal in some countries, states, and territories. Consult local law enforcement for further details.
Okay, let's get you back to the show now.
So I'm thinking you guys have dove, and I know I'm kind of spoiling. Like it's unfair for me to say I'm thinking, because I know what the answer is here. You've probably dove a lot deeper into back issues than you had pre-pandemic.
100 times. Yeah.
And back issues and back stock of trade paperbacks is one of the things that got us through the first few months of the pandemic. If we hadn't had those at all, we would have had a much more challenging introduction to COVID.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as how, we're doing and then projecting outwards, like I'm optimistic, not even like cautiously optimistic. Like business has been good for us in a way that's been like solid and doesn't feel fluky. And I have a fair amount of faith in the next like year of comics from what we know of them.
Right.
The clientele is healthy. That, you know, there's a revitalization in large things at DC and at Marvel in a way
Sure.
that we hadn't seen in quite a while, you know,
Yep.
since like the Hickman X-Men stuff. So yeah, I mean, and then with working with the landlord and stuff, it was able to be a thing that at first we were like, okay, it's kind of a lateral move financially. But what we're going to do for the first year, Django, do you want to tell the folks?
Yeah, so we're gonna run down our lease. Maybe we can get out of it a little bit early, but our crash plan here is to move the store over to the new space and then leave the old store open as kind of different business model. So we'll have more dollar books. We'll have somebody behind the counter managing an eBay store. We'll just,
Cool.
you know, we'll be able to do the smaller, less dollar per square inch things that we haven't been able to do in our store because, you know, we've got too many trade paperbacks and good back issues. Now we can have a room full of dollar boxes, and we can have, you know, get things out in front of people that we just haven't had the room to get in front of them. So we'll
really
have like
exciting.
Comics Place Prime will be larger, and it'll have only inventoried items in it, and, you know, it'll be the flashy fancy one. And then we'll have like I don't want to say the garage sale version, but the garage sale version. And that'll also be bouncing our customers over across the street to the new location, right? Because there's, no matter how big you advertise it, people always come into your store and like, oh, I thought you closed. You're like, no, man, we've been here for 2.5 years. So having that transition time, I think, is going to be super helpful.
And
Okay, so we are just to let you know, we're currently franchising the Earth area code business. So you could potentially be Earth 360 if you're
I
wanting. 'Cause,
love
Nice.
that.
you know, we're
Nice.
Earth 519 here in London, Ontario. So
And
Yeah.
to your earlier point about just kind of like stealing ideas from other stores or whatever, I don't have specific things that like I've seen that I'm like I want to do exactly that. It's almost like the opposite, which is I feel like we have practiced a ton over the last 2 years, like, you know, like a jazz musician practicing all of his scales so that when he goes up for a performance, like he doesn't know what he's going to play, but he's comfortable in the amount of practice he's had in all these different chord changes to be able to, you know, I'm just excited to do something different. I don't know exactly,
Yeah,
you know,
for
what
sure.
it is yet, but I feel way more competent at making decisions for a comic store business, and I think Django does too, more than we ever have. So I'm just very excited for not like a fresh start, but just to like, you know, open up a new comic shop and not be double stocking, kind of like when we had our satellite store. Just kind of be able to start something from the ground up again and have different opinions and not really feel married into a ton of practices like we always have been because of the physical location itself or because they were like legacy things the store has always done.
And the new store is about 150% of the floor space that we have right now. So that's opened up. I think in our brains, we've probably filled up 10 times the space that we're actually going to gain. But, you know, like it'll open up a lot of opportunities to face out new things or try new product lines. The ceilings are higher, so we could potentially hang posters and t-shirts up there and advertise those in a new way. And then in addition to that, there's also a large mezzanine that we're going to turn into like a gaming space and sort of a community area so that we can be holding our book clubs and D&D nights and Star Wars games and stuff while we're still open instead of doing it after closing time. And
maybe a little podcast studio up there. Huh? What do you think?
we might have something like that too. Yeah. I mean, it's you know, some pinball and a coffee bar, who knows, but just like having a community area that is not product focused, but that is designed to, you know, bring people together to hang out and engage in games and comics and all that is super exciting to me.
Yeah.
So what does the math behind a move like this look like? And how do you determine an ROI of a successful move? Because that's very different than figuring out the ROI and like, on opening a shop, right?
Right.
Sure.
Right.
How do you know that this is successful? What does that math look like?
Well, I'll tell you a secret about the comics place finances,
All
Brian.
right, I'm all ears.
A lot of it is from the gut.
Yeah.
And
Okay, all right.
it's like, do we have enough money to pay the bills? Are we
Yeah,
slipping, or are we growing, or are we
right,
staying even? And generally we're staying even, maybe socking away a few dollars for later. And then we have a
right.
really slow week and we pull a little bit of money out of savings and we make it up later on. So it's for our business, it really is all about cash flow. And we've been lucky in the last few years to not have huge cash flow problems that have scared us, and we've been able to
Sure.
sneak little bits of money aside. When we first started looking into this store, this new location, I set up an auto transfer to move money out of our main bank account into a savings account, just to see what it would be like if we were paying the rent that we're going to be paying right out of the gate, and to see if that would impact our ability to meet payroll and pay our real rent. And it hasn't really put us in a hard spot. So I think the way that I'm thinking about it is we're gonna have some real tight cash flow and a lot of extra work for about a year.
Mhm.
And once we get through that and we're not paying rent in two places, not paying for staffing in two places, um, if we're still open and things aren't upside down, I think that we count that as a win. So the math is the math calculating a potential ROI is like non-existent in
Right.
my brain.
Yeah. I mean, Django and I have run this shop for years now with like very little overhead in our personal lives for the most part.
Mhm.
And our model has always just been like, make enough money personally so that we can live our lives, but like mostly, as long as the store is able to be surviving, it'll be good. And that I think transitions over nicely to this. We're basically just looking at, like Django described, like, can we afford to do this? Like, not necessarily the increased revenue or return on investment, but like, I also put a huge weight in like theoretical value of the amount, the increased joy I get out of a day-to-day life of doing new things that I'm
Yeah.
more excited about or challenging or embedded in. And
Mhm.
that is like a value I can't even put a price on.
Can we unwind that a little bit? When you say that are you saying you don't take a salary? Is that what you're saying?
We
We
take
do.
salaries, but they're
Yeah.
not huge.
Okay,
They're
I see.
not, and they don't change much. It's not like, oh, we made extra, like we'd had a really good month, so
Right.
Django and I make extra or anything like
We
that.
Yeah.
take
It's
salaries, we don't take draws.
Okay,
yeah,
I get you. Yeah. That
yeah,
like that's how I've always run my businesses. I've always
yeah.
taken a set salary, and then there can be bonuses, but there has never been a bonus to date. But
We've
someday there'll be a bonus, right? Someday
we're
there's going to be a bonus.
we're technically a C corp, which I think starts being a really bad idea from a tax perspective if you make a lot of money. And we've
Yeah.
never even approached the thought of needing to reorganize our business into something else because of that.
Yeah, that's the
Like, we're
same.
not
Like
in
as long
danger of
as
making so much money that we get overtaxed for this
yeah,
specific
yeah.
kind of
As long
organization.
as we're not making a profit, we're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And really,
Yeah.
we got really lucky. This space is bigger and better, and the expense isn't that much more than what we have now.
Right.
but
Um, yeah.
calculating, like return on investment for the move and all that, like you would have to be like, so the location that we found is like a block away from where we currently are.
Mhm.
If this was 6 blocks away, that would be a much less certain thing.
Sure.
Yep.
It would be much harder to predict how foot traffic and sales are going to relate when you're changing that much of a location. So like there is this sort of baked in security of like, okay, well we'll be open in this one as well, so we can make sure people are going to the new one, but also when we're closed here, like it's right by, people will, like, we're not going to lose sales.
But you're also going to have to like build new fixtures and put in
Oh yeah.
new things, and
Yeah.
Yeah. So the we haven't got keys to the new space yet. It comes with a
Right.
good amount of shelving already.
Yep.
But we haven't been able to get in there and kind of feel how things are going to look when we move our existing shelves over. But the kind of general plan is to take all the great shelves that we have at the current store, move those into the new store, and then populate the old store with, shelving from Goodwill or whatever. Because that's not going to be that's not going to have to meet our kind of super high standards for the way that we present our products
Right.
in the same way anyway.
So, like the current, and this is having never visited because I've never been invited.
That was my
that's
immediate thought, which was like you had tossed around some possible ideas about being over here in the immediate future, and I can't wait. I hope it's at a time where we've got keys and you can just come in and check out this new space with us and figure it out.
And
maybe
see the old space.
carry some boxes and drive.
Well, yeah,
IKEA
actually,
guy, huh?
yeah. But no, I would love to hear your view on the new space and ideas that would come up to you.
Yeah, I'm. If everything goes according to plan, there should be a Data B.R.O.S. Well, as long as I have a passport, there will be a Data B.R.O.S.
What if we make
union.
it a Data B.R.O.S convention that we're trying to do every year?
Genius.
So the first one is you just coming over, but like maybe we could get Katie or some people from Portland to come up and
I love it.
Just have a reoccurring Data B.R.O.S convention.
And then afterwards we can go get some Data beers.
Ooh.
You know the secret word. In terms of like colors and paints and stuff like that, have you guys started thinking about that kind of stuff yet?
The place is very well put together. It's an off-white area. It's got some blonde wood shelving. It's got a nice dark tile floor. I'm not 100% convinced that we need to paint very much in there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now you've got shelves and stuff that are.
Yeah,
right.
we've got like dark shelves and red shelves. So there'll be some color in there. The place we're in now was like stark white walls and ceilings. And so we did some accents. What I did is I photoshopped what the paint should look like. And initially we were like, let's paint it all bright blue. And I photoshopped that. I was like, holy shit, I was all like, heavens to Betsy, that was almost a disaster because it looked really bad.
Right.
So we ended up with just a couple of blue highlights to kind of lead people through the area how we wanted to, and then having a red wall or a yellow wall in the very back to kind of bring the moths to the flame of the back of the store. But I don't think we're gonna probably need to do very much of that in this space.
I'm just like very interested also, like it's gonna be cool. When Django and I moved into the current location, it was like 7 years ago. So our current working relationship minus 7 years of working together. So we're way better at working together, but I think also maybe less careful because of that comfort that comes with working with a partner for that long. So it's going to be really interesting, like to not take for granted our relationship and like kind of have to go back in time a little bit to be making decisions together on things in a way that we haven't in a long time, because there's a lot more security in those decisions.
Yeah.
Looking from the outside looking in, you guys have been kind of doing some fun stuff with how to get the word out. Let's talk a little bit about that.
That's all Django.
We just recorded some videos to announce that we had the place, and then like kind of last minute we decided to tease people and kind of have them try to guess where it was going to be, which then led to more social media posts. And as I was getting ready to edit the video together, I was like, oh, I guess I'll just pop this into TikTok and make something. And from my long history of running the Pretty Good TikTok videos account on TikTok, I was able to
best TikTok channel.
We did a very straightforward announcement, and then I just put laser eyes and ghost bodies and as many dumb effects as I could. Yeah, the worst music I could find. And so that's been kind of our theme of this announcement, and we got a lot of engagement, a lot of people trying to guess where it was. Only I think 2 people guessed where it was going to be before we announced it, which I'm hoping is an okay thing. I'm hoping that's not just an invisible space that nobody knows exists.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
didn't
amazing.
know it existed until we were standing next to it, and I was like, "Let's look in here." You know,
Yeah.
like we had never even looked inside or thought about it. Like when I was looking through, you were like, "I don't know, it's got short ceilings." I was like, "No, it goes way back." Like it was a
Yeah.
thing neither of us knew really anything about. So I hope it's not kind of blind.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so
Yeah.
I
good.
just love the adventures Django and I have, and even if it becomes terrible, even if in 2 years we're like, I can't believe we thought that was a good idea. Like, I just have a tremendous amount of faith in our ability to get backed into a corner together and badger our way out of it. So yeah, it's the heck with making a lot of money. Like, again, just like we're all just trying to enjoy our lives, you know, before the end of it. So like, this is a good way of making sure Django and I are going to have an exciting year and a half, and all of our employees, and hopefully the staff, or sorry, the customers that come into the store. Like, that's one of those other things, like in making the announcement and the videos, um, you know, as we've talked about on this podcast, like consumers make such a relationship with a store like a record
sure.
store or a comic store or something. So there was no part of me that felt like I needed to get people's permission to do this, but I did feel a sense of obligation to be like, everyone, like, just know, like, we take this really seriously, and we know that the only reason you're watching this is because you love coming to this store. So like, we are doing this, like, please, you know, be excited. We think this is going to be awesome for you. But there is that sense of like, you know, you don't want to be, hey, Cheers is moving to a new bar, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know.
It's
Are they still
above
going to know my
ground.
name?
What?
Yeah.
Above
So
ground.
so it doesn't feel like a thing that is just Django and I making decisions, you know? Like, there is this very large community weight to the whole thing that I don't take lightly.
It's going to
By
be
the
super
way,
fun to iterate.
Quick public service announcement. If you got the Cheers reference right now, it is time for you to schedule your colonoscopy.
Dang it.
Thank you very
Call
much.
it, doctor.
I need a colonoscopy.
There you go.
I'm really looking forward to being in a place where we have to iterate on the design of our store, because we haven't done that in a few years. You know, like we've settled into a very solid routine, and I think it's a good routine. I think it's probably about as good as our specific location can be. And learning how to, like, we're basically gaining another dimension. We're going to be able to go up in the store, and we have never really been able to do that as grown-up Jeff and Django. And I'm really looking forward to learning how all that works, and also to suspending our submarine from the sky.
And just like that iterating thing, you know, like, it's hard to have a real fresh perspective and ability to iterate when you, again, have these known things that have to be a certain way. So like, a lot of what I'm excited about, I don't even know what it is yet. I just can't wait for Django and I to be needing to make decisions and not have the same parameters set on us that have been set on us for the last 7 years.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on that note, I am looking forward to iterating on this podcast in the future and doing more and more episodes and getting back into the swing of things. We did 15 weekly episodes, and then our lives kind of diverged for a time, but here we are
Muscles,
back
man, they
again.
take time.
Little what's that?
Muscles. Collecting muscles
those
takes
muscles,
a long
yeah.
time.
Developing those muscles,
listen,
building new marriages.
I think the listeners have been predicting the CSA Managed Comics Wars for a long time. So, you know, listen, did the wars, are they over? No, but they had a bit of time, and we've come back together, and maybe the wars will start back up, but we've been able to get through that dark patch. And
I wouldn't even call that a war. That was like a, you know,
it was just Django and Brian had a big falling out for a couple of weeks, and I stitched everyone back together, and now we're in love again.
Listen, I'm just going to remind y'all, the last time that Americans screwed with Canadians, we burned your White House to the ground. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just throwing that out there.
My-
So you're
It'd be
saying
a
we
shame
should
if
screw with you.
something. It'd be a shame if something happened to your new location. That's all. I'm not saying that. I'm just throwing. All
Just
right. No,
saying.
I'm kidding. All love, and hopefully not in a threatening manner. I will be in Bellingham soon.
Dude,
You know what? I gotta really reconsider all my words going forward.
the idea of you being in Bellingham soon brings me tremendous joy. I
Yes.
cannot just, whenever it happens, but the idea of you being in town makes me very happy. And also in this period of Django and I gathering ideas and getting inspired to do this large project and stuff, there's very few people whose eyes I would appreciate having on the grounds of it before it all starts as much as yours. So
I love
that
it.
would be really cool.
Well,
tight 30. That's how we roll here.
Yeah, this is not tight or 30. You know what? We had a lot to say. We haven't been back for a while, but we will be back next week with a brand new Data Bros. And we'll see you then. I don't remember how we used to leave these off. Was it same Data Bros channel, same Data Bros time? I don't even remember.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Django.
And I'm Brian, and I was wondering.
Oh, man, I forgot about that bit for that other podcast we do.
All right. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. Nice work, boys.
The Data Bros is a joint project from the teams behind Comic Shop Assistant and Manage Comics. Data Bros are Django Boren, Jeff Figley, and Brian Garside. Brian Garside produces and edits the episode. And you'll find more about the Data Bros online at databrosinc.com. Subscribe, like, and review the Data Bros on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.